noticed that in recent times, the country has more industrial issues to contend with as workers embark on all manners of strikes. The various unions, even the central labor bodies, take to the streets to express their frustrations or grievances through protest rallies or picketing of companies. These grievances range from what they term employers' violation of labor standards or outright disregard for collective bargaining agreements. Sad to say, most times, when labor resort to these measures, it leads to disruption of economic activities. The after effect usually is loss of millions of naira, which should have accrued to the organization's purse or government coffers. Sometimes lives are lost when, for example, health workers or medical doctors refuse to render their services. On March 8th, the world marked the International Women's Day. Activities to celebrate this day is ongoing, but we will bring you how the working women in the two labor centers, that is the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria and the Nigeria Labour Congress, celebrated theirs. My name is Mo Bonewilki, your host, and you are welcome to Policy on Track, a program on labor and industrial relations matters. Here are stories that made headlines in the last 1 week in the world of work. Mauritania has ratified the 2014 protocol to the Forced Labor Convention 1930, reinforcing the global movement against forced labor in all its forms, including human trafficking. Mauritania follows Niger, Norway, and the United Kingdom as one of the first states to formally commit to implementing the protocol, making it the second African country to committing to ending modern slavery. The protocol was adopted in 2014 by the International Labour Conference. It requires states to take effective measures for prevention, protection of victims, and ensuring the access of victims to justice and compensation. The ILO estimates that 21 million people are victims of forced labor worldwide, generating about $150 billion in illicit profits annually. Victims are exploited in agriculture, fishing, domestic work, construction, industry, mining, and other activities. March 22nd is World Water Day. The Director General ILO, Guy Ryder, highlights the situation of the 1.5 billion people who work in water, many of whom are not recognized for the work they do, nor protected by basic labor rights.
There is no life without water. The fact that access to water underpins all of our efforts to achieve sustainable development is clear. What is not so often said is that the availability and sustainable management of water has a clear and direct link with the creation of quality jobs. World Water Day provides a unique opportunity to highlight this relationship under the 2016 theme, Water and Jobs. Today, almost half of the world's workers, 1.5 billion, work in water-related sectors, and nearly all jobs depend on water and those that ensure its safe delivery. Yet millions of these workers are not recognised or protected by basic labour rights. Take the example of a young woman in the Gambia who has to walk for hours every day to fetch water for her family. That's a job, but it's not paid and it's not recognised. If the delivery of water was ensured, this young woman could be learning skills that would help her to find a better job. Water can contribute to a greener economy and to sustainable development. But for this to happen, we need more workers qualified to realise the potential of new green technologies. And we need those workers to have decent work that provides dignity, equality, safety, and a fair income. The quantity and the quality of water has a direct impact on workers' lives and health. Every year, over 340,000 workers die because of inadequate water supply and sanitation. The livelihoods of many workers, such as fishermen, depend on the quality of the fresh water. A farmer's job depends on his or her ability to manage the available fresh water. The fact is that water is work. It requires workers for its safe and clean delivery, and at the same time it can create and improve conditions of work. If the 2030 UN Sustainable Development Agenda is to be a success, and we are to build together a sustainable future, we must ensure that work in water is decent and that the water we all rely on is safe. And World Water Day is a great opportunity for UN agencies, non-governmental organisations, employers, trade unions and citizens to come together to make a call for better water and better jobs. And as Chair of UN Water, I make this call and take the opportunity to thank all of you for joining here today to share this message. Happy World Water Day.
The restiveness in the industrial relations climb is so palpable for anyone not just to feel but to touch. Yet one wonders what the Ministry of Labour and Employment, the regulatory body, is doing to nip these issues in the bud before they become full-blown agitations, protests, or complete withdrawal of services. It does appear that the ministry is not proactive. It practically waits for crisis to brew before it intervenes. If you ask me, the ministry is in a silence mode. Or how do you explain a 3-day face-off between the unions in the electricity sector and the management of the Ikeja electricity disco? Yet the ministry was nowhere to be found. It took the intervention of the officials of the Department of State Services, DSS, to stop the picketing of that premises, and eventually the DSS set up a joint committee between the unions and the management of the disco, giving them 3 weeks to chart a way forward. Stretch your imagination a little with me. A nation battling with epileptic power supply, scarce petroleum products. Then from nowhere, some group of workers agitating over the sack of about 400 of them unjustly. You will agree with me that residents under the Ikeja electricity disco experienced hell on earth while the face-off lasted.
Workers in the construction sector of the economy embarked on an indefinite strike to protest what they described as violation of labor standards by the employers. On day 3 of the 1-week strike, President of the National Union of Civil Engineering, Construction, Furniture and Woodworkers, Amechi Asguni, told journalists in Lagos that employers in that sector undermine the rights of workers by sheer neglect of respecting the industrial tool of negotiation as stipulated by the Nigerian labor law, thereby wanting to introduce lawlessness into the sector.
The instrument they intend to scrap is the NGIC, established more than 3 decades. For close to 40 years, this negotiation has been on, and it has been on 2 years basis. That document is a legitimate document put in place to guide and provide leadership for the organization. NGIC monitors the conditions and behavior of both parties in order that they meet up with the terms of the laws of the country. Unfortunately, these people have resorted to neglecting such instrument. In that case, they want to introduce lawlessness to the system. And we are saying no to that. Instrument that was given by mutual understanding cannot be eroded by one party. And that arbitrarity must be resisted by the union. We are doing that with all sense of responsibility. Getting to the negotiation table, they are telling you now that, having written you to for proposal, that they have changed their mind not to negotiate. At this juncture, they want to postpone or scrap the document itself. They further requested that allowances should be reduced. a salary that is poor. You are talking about reduction of salary. That is suicidal. And we have said that no NGIC, no work.
As Guni told reporters that redundancy is unabated under the guise of downturn in the economy of the country, adding that over 100,000 of their members have lost their jobs in the last 1 year.
Construction sector have lost hundreds of thousands of Nigerians. They keep reducing workforce. Even as we speak to you, before the action started, there was redundancy. In this case, they have reduced workers to be doing the job of many people. A worker now serves the duty of more than a job of one worker. And the only way to seek for improvement is through a legitimate means. And any employer that have no regard for the rule of this land, we must expose. Talk about the expatriate. Do they treat the expatriate in this manner? So rather than engaging the Nigerian people to save costs, the employment of one expatriate can fetch 10 or 20 Nigerians. But in this direction, they prefer to service the conditions of the expatriate at the expense of Nigerians.
On day 7 of the industrial action, the Ministry of Labour intervened on the impasse between the construction unions and their management. It advised the unions to suspend the strike to enable meaningful dialogue commence.
We are using this notice to also advise the ministry to do the needful, not to guarantee what they know they cannot control. Because telling employers already that there's no problem, that already, if they do, was deceitful. There's no hire, and industry nationwide will be on strike, and ministry will be telling employers that there's no problem, they can contend it.
This is the same sector that many buildings under construction have collapsed, killing many. The latest accident was the Lekki building collapse in Lagos State that killed 34 workers, leaving scores injured. President of the union reaffirms their position that most of those collapsed buildings are the ones constructed without approval. He called on the federal government to review the process of awarding contracts.
We also draw the attention of the government and any other person that stands to give contract about building with regard to the collapsed building in Lagos here that has claimed lives. We frown at it and we blame government as well, because the awarding of projects to subcontractors that lack standard is unacceptable. You don't just give contract to people because you want to make money. Now, contracts are awarded on the basis of who no man, not on the basis of those companies with reputation. There are companies that does not compromise the standard. When you give them contract, they charge you based on that standard, and they will deliver in that light. You can see bridges that were built 100 years ago. Bridges built many, many years ago, they're still lasting today because they were built with standard. Now buildings are collapsing every day, claiming life. And no strong policy has come to challenge, to checkmate this. It's unacceptable.
The battle for the survival of the jobs of tally clerks and onboard security have been a prolonged one. While some interests want this category of dock workers extinct, the Maritime Union insists that these dock workers will not be replaced by a body not known to law. Tally clerks are whistleblowers. They prevent under-declaration by shipping companies and terminal operators. They tally every cargo that is loaded in our seaports and cargoes that come into the country.
Workers in the nation's port formations embarked on a protest against plans by the management of the Nigerian Port Authority (NPA) to sack about 3,500 dock workers. The process disrupted operations at all terminals in Lagos, Warri, One, Calabar, and Port Harcourt.
The present government, led by his respected Muhammadu Buhari, said that he's going to create jobs. We respect him because he's a decent man. He said there will be no job lost. But Habib Abdullahi is going up and down, telling people that the president, General Muhammadu Buhari, have directed him to sack 3,000 tally clerk and onboard security dock workers.
The MD of NPA said they don't want us again inside the port. They want to do it with us, which means they want to sack over 3,500 workers, tally clerk onboard security. And that's why we are here to protest against it. Our leadership have dialogue with them. They've went to the meeting with the Minister of Transport for 2 consecutive times, and all to no avail. And up till now, they are still saying what doesn't go down well with us, and that's why we said no is no, and they cannot sack any of us at all.
As you can see, the port now, there is no traffic. Ships are being diverted to neighboring countries. These policies that are inimical are killing the jobs in the nation's seaport.
The Deputy Secretary General, Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, Abdullahi Eroje, called on President Buhari to carry his anti-corruption campaign to the various port formations, alleging financial leakages in the NPA.
The renovation of NPA headquarters, that is financial leakage. They pay the contractor 10 billion upfront. Let the government beam their searchlight in the operation of NPA where they have financial leakage, not sacking 3,000 dock workers. So we call on Mr. President to beam in searchlights. Calabar Channel issue is there. Renovation of NPA headquarters is there. All the NPA properties have been sold. So if you want money, let him go around and search for those money, not to sack poor workers who are working. And the job of tally clerk and on board security is very sensitive. Under declaration is what is happening in the port. When the shipping company bring in their ship, they will tell you they bring in 30,000 metric ton, but if you tally, it will amount to almost 35,000 metric ton. Arms ammunition will come in without tally clerk and on board security men, and that is why we are protesting. But if the government refuses to listen to us, we will do it the other way.
A member of the management addressed the protesting workers and promised to pass the message to the appropriate quarters.
I want to say I've known very many of you for so many years, and I know the peaceful nature you have handled issues. And I want to say thank you for at least staging a peaceful demonstration. It's quite peaceful, I can see it's quite peaceful, and the message has been passed. We don't need to, I don't need to belabor that any longer. We need to pass it on to the appropriate quarters, and I'm sure management will listen to me when I say you have come, you have passed a message to me, to pass to them and to pass to the presidency.
The unions urged the federal government and relevant bodies to dredge the navigable channels to the nation's ports, particularly Warri Port, to allow for movement of large vessels.
Despite significant progress over the past century, gender equality in the world of work remains an elusive goal. On March 8, 2016, International Women's Day was marked. The day gave opportunity to women to address the critical issues raised by the newly adopted United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. The day also provided platform to appraise the quest for gender equality within and among countries. This year's Women's Day activity in Nigeria is taking place at a crucial time when gender issues are taking center stage in national discourse, in the home, workplace, schools, businesses, and politics. The event is coming at a time when gender-related violence like abduction, forced and underage or child marriage, rape, and other forms of sexual assault are all on the increase.
The International Women's Day is largely aimed at inspiring women to celebrate their achievements and serve as a reminder of how much more needs to be done to achieve gender equality.
Thank God that this year team Pledge for Parity is one of the things that is going to assist us to achieve, at least if it is not 100%, we will get headway.
Drawing from the theme Empowering Women, Breaking the Circle of Poverty and Violence, you want to tell us what progress TUC have made so far in achieving this thing?
The women part of TUC have really tried their best in ensuring that all women are carried along in programs, projects. And what are these projects? For example, we've embarked seriously on training women. We have women that have been trained in different fields. You need, first of all, to understand what you are. Who are you as a woman? And then how do you relate with your male counterparts?
One of the greatest areas that we have made progress is sensitization. Sensitization is definitely a key issue for people to understand what it means to be poor, what poverty means, what violence means.
Whether you're a working woman or a housewife, what is the reality of the situation we have on ground?
The reality is that as at present, all over the country, women are still being treated as second-class citizens. We are yet to break the glass ceiling in the office environment. Yes, there have been 1 or 2, 3 women achievers, but the percentage compared to the number of women working is very low. And we are still having issue. Even initially we are talking about rape. Now it has gone to abduction as another new dimension. When mothers feel that going to school may lead to kidnapping, we put them in the boarding houses, and kidnappers are going to the school in the presence of the school authority and government official. So we felt we have not achieved anything in these 2 areas.
The violence, especially in the house, is becoming something else. The problem that women are facing these days, especially the girls, our children who are girls, it's like they are the targets now. So we need to work more. We have been doing that. We are going to secondary school to talk to the small girls to let them know the risk that is out there. They are using our girl for horror these days. And that is really giving us a lot of sleeplessness.
Violence is rampant all over the place now. So what do? We housewives, we mothers, we working women, we need to put our eyes down to our children, know what they are doing at every time. And the other girls, call them, talk to them, pep them up by telling them the moral, because there is no more moral standard.
Gender gaps persist in the world of work, thereby posing enormous challenges for women to find decent jobs. Discrimination is still rampant, while sexism is on the increase.
Discrimination in all ramifications. We are not given the right position, and if you don't have any godfather, you cannot rise.
We see a lot of sexism that is really happening. You see people saying because you are a woman, you cannot be this. You see some people telling you that because you are a woman, you cannot even be their boss. Some people will tell you that they cannot even work under you just because you are a woman. In workplaces now, you see where they say, okay, because you are a non-indigene. Let me take for instance, maybe they may say maybe because you are a non-indigene in Lagos State, you cannot get to some level. Maybe to the level of permanent secretary, to the level of director or whatever, just because you are a non-indigent. Ordinarily, anywhere in the world, wherever you stay, wherever you work, maybe if you have stayed there for about 10 years, you're supposed to, at least you should be able to lay claims to such a place.
Most of these, they have the women at the lower cadre, but they are not being carried along. So the lapses of not having women, the vacancy is there and it's showing. Look at what happened during the NLC election. If we have up to 3 women in their midst, their mothers, they will be able to control the situation before it escalated.
Women make up a substantial percentage of the working class in most economies of the world. As the quest for enthronement of best practices in the world of work gathers steam, gender-sensitive agendas must be accorded prominence in the activities of trade unions. The first National Women's Day took place in 1909, and its roots are in campaigning for better pay and voting rights for women.
Take this last line. The International Labour Organization, ILO, says all stand to gain from gender equality, be they families, enterprises, and society. That will be our package for today. Thank you for being part of this show. Please contact us through any of our social media platforms you have on the screen for your contributions or comments. My name is Mo Ogbonewilke. Bye-bye.